Hi everybody, this is the lecture to accompany Chapter 9 in your textbook. I highly recommend that you read Chapter 9 very thoroughly. There are lots of things in it that I simply don't have time to address in this lecture. Okay, let's talk about friendship. As I've said constantly from the beginning of the semester, we must interact with other humans. It's critical to our mental and physical well-being. But more than just interact with them, we need to bond with them. We need social bonds that are interactive and emotionally close. We form relationships because we need to belong. And we are driven to seek relationships, to form them, to maintain them, and to protect relationships. And we do that largely through interpersonal communication. And historically, we've become friends with the people who are closest to us physically. However, these days we have as much opportunity to create new relationships online as well. Social relationships bring lots of rewards. They bring emotional rewards, material rewards, and health rewards. So as far as emotion is concerned, we need emotional support in our lives. Certainly we need emotional support during bad times, but we also need emotional support during good times. Remember when I talked about how happiness lends itself to being shared? Well, we need someone to share those good times with as well as the bad times. And it also brings material rewards. If we like somebody, we share things with them. We share our stuff with people that we like. We take each other out to dinner. We give each other presents. Maybe we might even give somebody a loan if they really needed it. And then also social relationships bring health rewards. Social relationships can alleviate stress when you have someone to talk to about things. That can lower your stress and make you healthier. People who report having a strong network of friends are 2 times more likely to survive a heart attack. And also, friends tend to look out for you and maybe call you out on some of your bad health behaviors. And that's another way that you could get health rewards from friendships. Friendships don't just have rewards attached to them. There are costs as well. Certainly, a relationship requires time. You have to invest time in that. There can be an emotional investment in it. Material costs, where you pay for dinner for your friend or give them a loan, and physical investment. As you can see by this picture here, somebody is time, material, and physical investment, and probably emotional investment as well when you help somebody move. So yes, it does cost you a lot of things to have a friendship. There are a lot of theories that social scientists have come up with to explain how and why we form and maintain social bonds. The first theory is called the attraction theory. Now, there must be something that draws 2 people together. Scientists have determined that it falls into one of these 3 categories. It's either physical, social, or task. We are potentially attracted by appearance, and I'll talk about that in a second, but there must be something about the way that person appears to you that causes you to be attracted. And when I say attracted, I'm not talking necessarily about sexual attraction, but you have to be attracted to somebody, drawn to them in order to be friends with them. And sometimes it is based on how they appear. It's also likely that you are attracted to them because of how they fit into your social circle. Also, you might be attracted to someone because of the way in which they do something. Maybe they're good at tennis or something. You always wanted to be a good tennis player, so that is what pulls you into them. According to this theory, we are drawn to people because of some aspect of their looks or their personality. What makes people attractive to us? It could be their appearance. Humans are very visually oriented creatures, and physical attractiveness is a valued commodity. We are attracted by proximity, so the closeness of someone and the frequency of interaction that we have with them. may determine whether or not we are friends with them. So work friends, school friends, church friends, internet friends. Now, the proximity to internet friends may not be distance related, but it just may be the fact that we are interacting online. So we may form friendships with people who we never meet. We are also attracted by similarity. So we are attracted by people who we can determine we have something in common with. And this tends to validate our own traits, likes, dislikes. And it can be kind of a survival instinct because in our past, similarity was considered safer than difference. We're also attracted by the exact opposite of similarity, which is complementarity, in which we see something in that person that we lack in ourselves, but we have to see that thing as a good thing. So if we see a quality in someone that we don't like, that we don't have in ourselves, well, then that's not a good enough reason to make somebody our friend. But if we see something in them that we admire, but we do not have in ourselves, then we tend to want to be friends with that person. Another theory is called the uncertainty reduction theory, and in it we find uncertainty unpleasant. So we seek to find out about newcomers to reduce that uncertainty. As that uncertainty is reduced, we tend to increase our liking and appreciation for that person because we know about them. Then there's something called predicted outcome value theory. And when we first meet someone, we unconsciously and automatically predict whether continued interactions with that person are worth pursuing. And if it is, then we use what are called approach behaviors to pursue a relationship. In other words, we introduce ourselves, we ask them about themselves, we invite them to go places with us. And if it isn't, then we use what are called avoidance behaviors. And these are verbal or nonverbal actions that kind of let the other person know that we're not interested in having a relationship with them. And there's something called the social exchange theory. All relationships carry costs and benefits, as I said before, and how and when we determine that one outdoes the other, that's where social exchange theory comes in. So what we do is we seek relationships in which the benefits to us outweigh the costs. We compare what our expectation of what we want and deserve in a relationship is with that relationship to see if we are getting what we want from it compared to alternatives or what other relationships we might have. Are those better or worse than what we have? And if we think it's better, then we are more likely to be friends with that person. Then there's something called equity theory. We truly believe that relationships should be equal, or if not exactly equal over the long run, over the life of this relationship. So we're looking for relationships in which the ratio of costs and benefits is the same as our partner. So you want to feel like you're getting from the relationship a somewhat equal amount as to compared to what you are giving to the relationship. So you don't want to be either over benefited or under benefited, because if you are receiving more than you're giving, that can make you feel like you owe this person something. And if you're under benefited, then you feel like you're not getting what you deserve out of that relationship. There are lots of things that we do to maintain a good relationship with our friends. Positivity. Yes, we are basically nice to that person. How are we nice? Saying nice things, treating them well, letting them know we like them, just being generally positive in the bounds of that relationship. Then there's openness, and openness is our willingness to talk about things to the comfort level of the relationship. You open up to that other person and they do to you as well. Then assurances, and assurances are both verbal and nonverbal in nature, and they're the things that demonstrate commitment to that relationship. Just letting that person know that you are indeed their friend and you're committed to being their friend. If you are friends with someone, you also share your social networks with them, so you will introduce them to your other friends and widen their network as well. And of course, you will be sharing tasks with that person. You do your share of work within that relationship. One of the best things about friendships is that they're voluntary. We choose our friends and they choose us, and choice is the key to friendships. We don't have to be friends with anyone we don't want to be friends with. We can't often say the same thing about our families. We have to love them, but we get to choose who our friends are, and that can be wonderful. And friendships are usually, not always, but usually between peers, and peers are people who are similar in power or status to ourselves. It's certainly possible to have friendships with people in other groups, but that can be often more challenging because of the power difference between someone who is your subordinate or your boss. Friendships are governed by rules, and I don't know that we actually think about this too much, but there are some very common rules of friendship. Friendship is a social contract, so since it's a social contract, there are bound to be rules, and these rules are generally implicit. Sometimes, if you get into an argument with your friend, the rules of friendship can come up, but there are some common rules in friendship, like putting your trust in each other, offering your help when it's needed, when you see that someone needs your help, respecting their privacy, keeping their secrets. I'm sure you can think of a lot of other rules that you expect your friends to follow, and that you expect yourself to follow in your friendships as well. Friendships tend to differ by gender. In same-sex friendships, men who are friends often value shared activity more than shared conversation, whereas women are more likely to value shared conversation. Now you can see this in little kids. If you see two little boys playing together, generally they're sitting side by side, not necessarily giving each other a lot of eye contact, but they may indeed be playing at the same thing, even sharing toys with each other. Whereas little girls are sitting across from each other, giving each other a lot of eye contact and talking quite a bit more. And then opposite sex friends can be a great source of friendship. Some of my best friends are guys. That doesn't mean they're anything more than just friends. However, flirtatious and even sexual behavior is not uncommon in opposite sex friendships. Now, those friendships may never turn romantic, but indeed they could. It's just as likely that you would have a friendship with someone of the opposite gender that would be perfectly platonic in nature as you would have one where you have a friends with benefits situation. Yes, friendships have a lifespan. Now, sometimes that lifespan is your entire life, but just as often it's much more limited than that. These are the steps of friendship. You start out with what's called role-limited interaction, where you meet that person and have limited face-to-face or internet contact with that person, but after a while you have a little bit more interaction with them, and there is something about that person that draws you towards them, so you have more friendly relations, and you might take steps, or they take steps, to move towards a friendship, and at some point you realize that you have a friendship. And then you get to the stabilized friendship part, and that can last for many, many years. However, some friendships end up in what's called the waning phase and can actually end. Why does this happen? Well, friends can grow to dislike each other, and maybe you start to be more critical of that other person, or maybe they betray a confidence or get hostile. Maybe something happens to them, they start to abuse drugs or alcohol, and they're just not the same person. Maybe they're not pulling their weight in that relationship. Possibly they have a new romantic partner that doesn't like you, or you don't like them. Or you just might realize at some point that you have nothing in common anymore. It may not even be as dramatic as that. Sometimes simply life circumstances can change. So there's a physical separation where people move away from each other and just lose track of each other. Or even if they're not far apart in distance, they might have family, work, or school things that get in the way. Just other demands that pull away from that friendship, and those things happen. And so understanding that, friendship can grow and wane just like anything else in life, kind of helps you to realize that even if that person is no longer a friend to you, that you did have a good relationship with them at one time. Work friends can be some of our best and most important relationships. Most likely, our relationships are going to be with our co-workers, our peers. Having good friends at work leads to definitely greater job satisfaction. Think about it. If you like the people that you work with, you're going to like your job a lot better. Friendships with coworkers have a social dimension, like I said, that interaction, that social interaction, and also a task dimension. You have the same job or similar jobs, so you have those things in common as well. However, conflicts can occur. Sometimes that's through competition. For instance, you might be in competition with a friend for advancement at work, and if your friend gets it and you don't, that could add some difficulty to your relationship. So those are the kinds of things that you would have to work through. Not always, but sometimes social relationships happen between superiors and subordinates, and this power difference can kind of complicate things. So if you're friends with your boss and your boss has to write you up because you did something at work, can you keep that work friendship boundary in place and accept that without it driving a wedge between your friendship? The book also discusses problems with sexual harassment. So what one person feels is friendly behavior and supportive behavior may make another person feel uncomfortable. Those are the kinds of things that you have to consider and possibly avoid or work through in that kind of relationship. And if you work with clients as part of your job, like other workplace relationships, there can be conflict between social and task dimensions if you are friends with your clients. Clients can be friends, but the same rules apply, to the point that some companies discourage employees from developing personal friendships with customers, but not always. So if you are allowed to have friendships with your customers, there needs to be clear boundaries between your work and your social aspects of that relationship, and you need to keep those in place for both the relationship and your business to be successful. In conclusion, having friends and other social relationships enriches us in many ways. With our friends, our lives are happier, safer, and more meaningful than they otherwise would be. Think about it. Imagine what your life would be without your friends. Aren't you glad that you have them? This is the end of Chapter 9.